Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the channel. This is Grady the Alchemist. I have a word for you today, a thought entitled Boundaries. Boundaries. My thought for the discussion this morning, this afternoon, this evening, comes from Jesus' discussion with the Pharisees and Sadducees in Matthew 22. They began to engage the Master with questions after questions after questions in an attempt to trap him in order to kill him. So one of the lawyers, a Pharisee, asked him after numerous questions by the Sadducees, the Pharisees, they both would be rotating, trying to trick and trap Jesus. And so in one particular instance in Matthew 22, one of the lawyers asked Jesus, "Who is thy neighbor?" They raise all these kinds of crazy questions. Particularly, though, in this instance, he was asked, "What is the greatest commandments?" Yeah, that's it. Not who is thy neighbor, but what is the greatest commandment? And Jesus says, "Well, you know what they are. The first is to love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and to love your neighbor. And the second is as great as the first, is to love your neighbor as yourself." Now, you say, "Well, what does boundaries have to do with that?" Exactly. That's where I want to take it. In order to love your neighbor as yourself, how do you treat yourself? For all practical purposes, you should love yourself and be good to yourself and kind to yourself and not abusive to yourself or not violent, but you respect yourself. That's boundaries. Knowing the rules and procedures on how to treat yourself and how to treat others. You see, when we establish these boundaries, these rules and regulations on how to love oneself, which is a premise for how you love other people, is we keep ourselves safe from hurt, harm, and danger. However, if you've never learned how to love yourself, and nobody's ever shown you the importance of how to treat yourself, then there's a high probability you don't know how to treat others. And what happens? All rules and regulations concerning relationships are violated. The scriptures teach us, in the context of boundaries, treat your younger brothers and your older men. Treat your younger men as your brothers and your older men as your fathers. Treat the younger women as your sisters and the older men as your fathers. You see, in that context, that's what we call fixing boundaries in relationships. But if you've never learned that or never studied it in scriptures or had no one to share with you the importance of boundaries, one's personal spaces are invaded over and over again. It becomes a regular violation. Sometimes people do it in ignorance, and other times it's deliberate. But I wanted to share with you, in order to be a community, to be a part of the body of Christ, you must understand boundaries. And so on today, I've shared with you a brief note about boundaries, Now you have the responsibility of knowing and pursuing and seeking and understanding the importance of self love and also loving your neighbor as yourself. And when we do these things, we bring forth a healthy community. And if the original Hebrew people like us understand what it means to be healthy and whole in relationship, we take away the issue of violating one another in any context, violating boundaries, violating personal spaces, violating character. We begin to walk in true righteousness and holiness because we love Yahuwah, God, and we love Yahushua HaMashiach, Jesus, and we love our neighbor as ourselves. For this is the word for the people of God today. Did you receive that? Oh, you should receive it with joy because it calls for a great community as us, as God's original Hebrew people. I say to you, Shalom Mishpachah, Shalom family. This is The Alchemist. Until then.